Good evening and welcome. Tonight, Governor Sanwo-Olu meets with the Inspector General of Police over the killing of Bolanle Rahim. Says there will be no cover-up in the matter as he promises support for the police. The Nigeria Bar Association seeks 5 billion naira damages over the killing of Bolanle Rahim, describes police investigation into the murder as poor as Police Service Commission suspends suspect. Court restrains the Department of State Services from arresting CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, declares the terrorism allegations against him as vindictive, callous, void, and of no effect. An Ekiti State Election Petition Tribunal upholds the victory of Biodun Oyebanji in the governorship election held in June this year.
On business news tonight, the World Trade Organization warns member countries against adopting new trade restrictions. Says implementation will have a negative effect on the global economy.
On sports news tonight, Brazilian football legend Pelé, arguably the greatest player ever, has died at the age of 82.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, the president commends Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello for his achievement as he inaugurates various projects during his first official visit to the state as president.
And in international news from London, cities across Ukraine have been targeted by a wave of Russian missile strikes in one of the largest bombardments since the war began.
The killing of Bolanle Rahim will not be swept under the carpet, and this is indication, again coming from the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who maintains that the Lagos state government will ensure there's no cover-up in the matter. He stated this when he visited the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali-Baba, at the force headquarters in Abuja. The police boss, on his part, recited his pledge that there will be no hanky-panky investigations into the matter. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, alongside the Attorney General of the state and the Commissioner for Information, are in the office of the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Alkali-Baba, to ascertain the level of investigation into the death of the Lagos-based lawyer and realtor, Mrs. Bolanle Rahim. She was reportedly shot on Christmas Day by a police officer attached to the Ajah police station, who has now been identified as Assistant Superintendent of Police, Drambi Vandi.
The very recent unfortunate incident.
Governor Sanwo-Olu says the Lagos state government wants to ensure there is no any cover-up of the issue.
We ensure that nothing is left undone. No cover-up, of any sort in this particular case, and that the full arm of the law, is put in place to ensure that the officer that apprehended, that he faced he has his day in court.
He also promises more support to the police.
Essentially, is really to continue to work with the police. The things that we can do, around providing some additional, equipment that they can use, things around body cameras, things around ensuring that we can jointly have an advocacy program, that can enhance and improve, public, and police communication.
The Lagos state governor is, however, assured of the police determination to ensure justice is served in the matter.
This incident will be investigated, and the Attorney General of Lagos State will be availed with the case diary for him to take over prosecution from the police. I assure you there is not going to be any hanky-panky on the issue.
The IGP also clears the air on the culprit.
Yes, Bibandi is the one that, through our investigation, confirmed to be the one that gives cover fire to the serve and search team. And he is the one that cannot account for the number of munitions that he was given. So by every extension, we believe he is the one.
As criticisms continue to trail the killing of Mrs. Rahim, both in Nigeria and across the globe, the Inspector General of Police is assuring the citizens of their protection while promising to deal with unprofessional conduct among officers and men. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And in keeping with its promise to ensure justice prevails, the Police Service Commission has approved the immediate suspension of the suspected killer, ASP Drambi Vande. In a letter to the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, the PSC notes that it has carefully examined the facts of the case and granted the approval for his suspension. The Commission explains in a statement that it has directed that the final investigation into the matter be concluded to enable it to take further necessary action. Following the unfortunate incident, the IGP had recommended ASP Vande's suspension to create an enabling environment for necessary legal procedures to uphold justice in the case without interference. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Bar Association in Lagos says it will seek the payment of damages of not less than 5 billion naira, in addition to the swift prosecution of the culprits in the killing of Mrs. Bolanle Rahim. A senior advocate of Nigeria and human rights lawyer, Ebon Olu Adeburua, made this known in a statement today, in which he urged Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to follow the model that he adopted during the EndSARS judicial panel to pay compensation to Rahim's family. Meanwhile, the NBA has described the handling of the killing as lackadaisical. The president of the NBA, Mr. Yakubu Mekau, said this while speaking on our program, Politics Today.
We have some suspicion about how this matter is being handled right now by the police. I listened to the first public relations officer yesterday when he was at your program, and he talked about certain processes that have to be followed before the investigation will commence and all of that. I do not agree with that, because that does not represent the position of the law. Of course, if you look at the provisions of the Police Act 2020, if you read Section 96 of that Act and also Section 103 of that Act, it is very clear that once a police officer is accused of having committed a particular crime, and in this particular case, the suspicion is that of murder, there is nothing that can be interpreted in that Act as not allowing for the prosecution of that police officer, or subjecting the prosecution or investigation of that police officer to certain internal mechanisms of the Nigerian police. Of course, I do not agree that the Nigerian public would have to wait for this police officer to go through the internal procedure or mechanisms of the Nigerian police to first dismiss the officer before he can be investigated and prosecuted. I don't agree. And I see some lackadaisical attitude in that respect. And if that is what they are doing or they are saying, it creates a lot of suspicion in our minds. And I say this because once you allow time in this manner to pass, then so many things can happen.
The courts now, Justice Miriam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja has quashed the DSS move to slam the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, with charges of terrorism, economic crimes of national security dimension. Justice Hassan also barred the DSS from arresting, inviting, or detaining Mr. Emefiele, declaring the terrorism allegations against him as vindictive, callous, suppressive, void, and of no effect. And a judgment on the originating summons filed by the Incorporated Trustees of Forum for Accountability and Good Leadership to enforce the fundamental rights of Mr. Emefiele. Justice Hassan also restrained the DSS from harassing or threatening to detain him. The court further relied on the orders of the Federal High Court delivered by Chief Judge Justice John Soho, declaring the continuous harassment and intimidation of the CBN governor as vindictive and a breach of his right of liberty and interfering with his functions as the governor of the CBN. The federal government has continued its infrastructure drive, completing some of the projects it initiated and others inherited from previous administration. They cut across power, road, rail, and information and communications technology networks cover extensive areas of the nation's territory. We continue our review of 2022 with our correspondent, Dario Duwu, taking a look at the nation's infrastructure tonight.
Usually capital intensive and on a long-term basis, rail, road, power are critical infrastructure on which vibrant economies are built. Many of the federal projects have been known for many years with different funding options. The federal government says it embarked on the reconstruction of 21 selected federal roads, totaling 1,804.6 kilometers under the Road Infrastructure Development and Refurbishment Investment Tax Credit Policy. Tax credit scheme, one of the funding options, allows companies to invest billions of naira in constructing over 1,500-kilometer critical roads in key economic corridors. One of the landmark projects of the Buhari administration is the construction of 1.6 Second Niger Bridge linking Anambra and Delta states with 10.3-kilometer highway. Earlier in the month, the bridge was open to vehicular movement and motorists can now use the infrastructure till January next year.
The target date is somewhere April, May, but these dates keep shifting, and people must remember that on the eastern side, our contractors have not been able to work on Mondays for almost 2 years. We lost 52 days of construction. Where do you make that up? And then we've also had some challenges that we had to overcome in terms of timelines. For example, we had to relocate all the transmission lines connecting the east to the west across that river. All of them had to be moved. So again, we lost some days because the power company had to shut down. They had contracts to supply energy. They had contracts to take gas. So all of these things are unseen.
On rail infrastructure, the administration completed a 326-kilometer Itakpe-Ajaokuta-Warri rail line and other supporting facilities. And in the southwest, the 156-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line modernization project is operational. This year, the political climate changed a few portfolios, and at the Ministry of Transport, power changed hands. Muazu Sambo replaced Rotimi Amechi. The new minister says any administration that comes on board will continue with the railway modernization program.
A lot of them are there to feel and touch. This is a train. This train was not available before this administration. Is it not a fact? Can anybody deny that? So these are the things this government has achieved. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that had defied 16 years of PDP administration is almost completed. Correct? The second Niger Bridge that has defied every administration before Muhammad Buhari is going to be commissioned before the end of this year. The second Niger Bridge. The deep sea port, the Lekki deep sea port is there, conceived and constructed under this administration.
Social infrastructure connects households across cities to higher quality opportunities in employment, education, healthcare, and obviously the mobility of persons and goods. In 2022, like in recent years, there are success stories and also setbacks in building infrastructure for public use. The attack on Kaduna-Abuja train, a critical transport infrastructure, posed a major threat to the nation's security and peace. The effect on the economy is also immeasurable. There are obvious pains and gains. How can the nation leverage and sustain the efforts made so far?
When the Buhari administration came to power, there was no transition plan from the PDP government. Nothing at all to build upon. And we felt it was wrong. And we needed to correct it. It's part of governance. Even if you are handing over to an opposition party, give them something to build upon. Okay? We as government is a what? A continuum, like Chief Obafemi Awolowo had of blessed memory always held. He said, government is a continuum. So you must prepare the next coming government.
Also in 2022, a significant progress is registered in the 63 million euros deal between the federal government and Siemens. The first set of mobile power transformers are delivered. With a new year, a new administration in view, the country's public debt burden continues to rise steadily
increasing by 16% on a year-on-year basis, with some parts used to finance capital projects, hoping that this social infrastructure translates to better living standards for the people. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, we'll have more on infrastructure development in 2022. We'll be joined by the Dean of the School of Transport and Logistics at Lagos State University, Professor Charles Asenime. At the moment, join us again. Welcome back. If you have joined us to watch the news at 10 live on Channels Television, here's a reminder of our top stories. Governor Sanwo-Olu meets with the Inspector General of Police over the killing of Bolanle Rahim, says there will be no cover-up in the matter, as he promises support for the police. The Nigerian Bar Association seeks 5 billion naira damages over the killing of Bolanle Rahim, describes police investigation into the murder as poor, as Police Service Commission suspends suspect. Court restrains the Department of State Services from arresting CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, declares the terrorism allegations against him as vindictive, callous, void, and of no effect. And the Ekiti State Election Petition Tribunal upholds the victory of Mr. Abiodun Oyebanji in the governorship election held in June this year. Just before the break, we'd had a report about the infrastructure developments in the country in 2022. Let's discuss the subject further now. Joining us to do this is the Dean, School of Transport and Logistics, Lagos State University, Professor Charles Asenime. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And the compliments of the season.
Same to you. Why did they say it's same to you, right?
Well, I believe so. You're wishing me the same, you have the same wishes for me. Tonight, we're talking about infrastructure development. I think you're one of the right people to be talking to about this. Your assessment of the President's infrastructure development in 2022.
I didn't quite get that.
What is your assessment of the President's infrastructure development this year?
Okay, my assessment of the President's infrastructure development, I will talk about infrastructure in the transport industry, where I belong. I can talk competently on that. Well, we should look at infrastructure development. It must have direction. The master plan for transport and infrastructure transport in Nigeria, the master plan of 2002, talks about 3 major factors that can lead the thinking of infrastructure development. Now, one of them is the infrastructure required to increase agricultural, personal mobility and transportation. I will come to that later. Then the infrastructure required for agricultural distribution, product distribution. Then the infrastructure required for industrial development.
You might want to look at these very quickly.
Okay, very quickly. If you look at infrastructure required for mobility, we look at, are we be able to enhance the aviation sector by increasing facilities at the airports? We look at road, we look at railway, we look at inland water transportation. Then we look at infrastructure development required to bring agricultural products to areas. I was just discussing with my friend before I came to the studio, in some parts of America, Chile, they will tell you, they tar roads to farms so that you can be able to evacuate agricultural produce. That is an infrastructure requirement.
So what do you think we've done here?
We have done all.
We have.
So it's just like how to be specific and to know, okay, where does this one go to, and how does this, what is going to be the overall impact on the economy and the people? We have done all. You want me to go into that right now?
Yeah, but you might want to explain that because you just said you spoke to your friend in the U.S. and he said, roads lead to farms.
Yeah, look,
where are our roads leading to, and where are these road transportation the means that we're moving, how we're moving?
All right, it's not just about road. I look at the major modes. Now let's take the first one, for individual mobility and transport. They have increased. Recently, we just opened the second Niger Bridge. Why did he do that? So that people can be able to move easily to the east and to enjoy the festive period. Then you look at some other roads that have been opened, the Abba-Mwaya Road, the East-West Road that was opened before it got damaged by flood. Even some part of the East-West Road from Warri Roundabout or Efru Roundabout down to Orong in Calabar. All these things are done to improve mobility of individuals. Then if you look at also rail, the Takpe Warri Rail, it's operational right now. We have the Abuja rail. Then we have the rail from Lagos to Kano. All these are done to move people and also to get people across to those areas where they can find jobs, because without mobility, you are geographically poor. So people don't, those who are not able to move, will not be able to make money. So that's what this is supposed to take care of. Then if you look at the industrial development too, we've been able to do some of this rail was done so that we can move heavy materials to areas where they are needed. Also, we have the ICDs.
But has that really been happening? I mean, the president's plan really is to connect all cities in the country. That was the original plan. And you've mentioned, some of the rail projects that he's done. Do you think it's feasible to connect all cities in the country? And I haven't really seen goods move on rail in Nigeria under this administration.
Goods move on rail. There's not quite long, some goods were moved from the Papa ports outside Lagos. Goods move on rail. You may say the frequency may not be high, but it does. Because if we say it doesn't move on rail, that means we're just trying to say, okay, no, but it moves on rail. Then we've seen goods too move on barges in water transportation. We have seen the barges move from Warri to Onitsha. They move barges from Warri. So all the cities right now in the country are connected. What we are looking at is what is the level of connectivity and what did they carry and how safe those routes are, but they are connected. So what they are doing right now is nothing new. It's just building on a plan that has been there before. Because if those plans are there and you don't implement it, it's as good as not doing anything. That's what's
it's interesting you say that, because the Minister of Transportation said there was nothing that this administration had to build on. The previous administration did nothing, and they had to come and, lay the concrete from scratch.
The minister that said that the place, when he traveled to Abuja, they did trek to Abuja. He either flew through an airport or he entered a vehicle to Abuja. There are things, nobody can come and say there was nothing there before. There were things there before. They just improved on it, because you cannot come and say the place is empty. Or when we came, there was no rail. There was rail. You just extended the rails, and maybe you modernized the rail from the narrow gauge to the standard gauge. But to say there was no rail, that's not true. Even when the British left, they left something. We're just trying to improve on what they left behind.
Yeah, so, and I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we don't, and that's the way TV works. Thank you so much, Professor Aseneme, for being here on the News at 10.
All right, thank you. When you have more time, please let me come back so we can talk more. Thank you very much. All right.
Moving to legal matters now, the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal sitting in Ado-Ekiti has upheld the victory of the candidates of the All Progressives Congress, Biodun Oyebanji, in the June governorship election in Ekiti State. A three-man judicial tribunal, chaired by Justice Wilfred Poche, held that the allegations of election rigging, vote trading, and procedural violations raised by the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Segun Oni, are vague and unspecific. The tribunal equally struck out the request for disqualification of the deputy governorship candidate of the APC for alleged certificate forgery, saying the issue was not brought up within the expected 21-day period legally allowed. Meanwhile, Governor Oyebanji has described the judgment as a victory for democracy while extending the olive branch to former Governor Oni.
It's a victory for democracy, and I dedicate this to Almighty God and to the people of Ekiti State. It's a validation of what they did during the election. And I thank the judiciary for upholding our victory as a party. Well, I actually don't have opponents, in fairness, when it comes to the issue of Ekiti State. Ekiti is a small state, we are homogeneous, we are one. And the right I have to the governorship is the right that every indigenous of the state has to that office. I see it as a contest. And I hereby call on Engineer Shegoni to join hands with me to develop the state. He is my leader. I have absolute respect for him, and that respect has not diminished. So I'll be linking up with him so that we can work together. He was part and parcel of this party before, and I'm going to call him back to his former party. The more the merrier.
Still ahead on the news at 10, World Trade Organization warns member countries against adopting new trade restriction measures, says implementation would have a negative effect on global economy. We'll have more business news. Join us again. Welcome back. Time to head on to our studio in Abuja for more on the news at 10 with Malkwe Ogun Yusuf. Hi, Malkwe.
Hello, Amarachi. It's good to see you. Well, our stories begin in nearby Kogi State, where the president has commended the state governor, Yahaya Bello, over his achievements, particularly in maintaining security and infrastructure development in the state. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the commendation during a working visit to the state today, his first to the north-central state since assuming office. As part of that visit, President Buhari commissioned the newly reconstructed palace of Ohinoyi Ebiraland, as well as a reference hospital not too far from the palace, and other projects.
This is the first walk-in visit to Kogi State by President Muhammadu Buhari. The visit presents an opportunity for the president to personally inaugurate numerous projects executed by the Governor Yahaya Bello-led administration. The first port of call is Okene, where the president commissioned the specialist hospital and the remodeled palace of the Ohinoyi Ebiraland. The host governor is proud of his legacy as he restates his plan to continue developing the state before the end of his tenure.
I will not fail to appreciate all that you have done for us. He just mentioned one, which is the payment of the debt owed to the past concessionaire of Ajaokuta Steel Rolling Mill. No nation can boast of any industrialization and development without iron and steel. And you have commissioned that, and by the grace of God, we are confident that you are going to ensure that Ajaokuta Steel Rolling Mill is up and running before the expiration of your time.
The president, on his part, reiterates the importance of the visit, as he notes that the projects being commissioned will have immense economic benefits for the people of the state and its neighbors.
I have been briefed by the governor and his team on the many projects we would have commissioned across the state today. They include the new Confluence University of Science and Technology at Osara, the Confluence Rice Mills at Ejiba, township roads networks at Ida, Okene, and Kaba, and the intrastate roads in the 3 senatorial zones. Massive erosion works at Ampa, Ogugu, and other places, as well as other roads, hostels, schools, and sundry projects.
With these projects in place, the people of Kogi State may look forward to continuation of the infrastructure drive as the Governor Bello administration prepares to exit of office.
Meanwhile, hours before the president's arrival for the commissioning of projects in Okene, there was an explosion in the town which resulted in the death of 3 people. The blast occurred behind the palace of the Ohinoyi of Ebiraland, damaging a part of the palace wall, while a vehicle was also burnt. The actual cause of the explosion is yet to be ascertained, but security operatives were sighted at the scene of the incident. And we're off to Akwa Ibom State now, where with only a few months to the end of his tenure, Governor Udom Emmanuel has continued his infrastructure drive with the commissioning of a 14-kilometer road in Oruk Anam local government area of the state. He says this is part of his efforts to create access to all parts of the state. The road, which is the first major tarred road in the area, traverses 6 communities in the local government.
It's the official commissioning of the 14-kilometer Ikore-Britam Road in Oruk Anam local government area by the Akwa Ibom State government. And thousands of people from the area and other parts of the state are here to witness the inauguration as the Commissioner for Works and Fire Service provides details of the project.
We have a 14-kilometer road towards my left, a 4.95-kilometer road towards my right, and 2.95 outfall drain, out of which 1.8 is underground. These are 3 distinct projects.
For the construction company, they are honored to undertake the project, while some prominent persons in the area appreciate the government for the good work.
I want to thank His Excellency, our own governor, for the opportunity he has given me, my company, to do what we love to do the most, one of the things we love to do the most, which is construction, engineering.
So on behalf of the people of Orok Anam, Your Excellency, first I want to thank you for being consistent as a leader, for taking the trouble and maintaining the faith in completing this project.
On his part, Governor Udom Emmanuel highlights the benefit of the project and promises to complete other ongoing ones before leaving office in 2023.
The one we are commissioning today is about 22 kilometers. If you check by 2 contractors, Insect Motors, normally, if you check in other places, probably this would have taken like 3 days. But we're in a haste to commission more. So that's why we are combining the 3 projects today to commission. Very soon, I'll come back for Ikoro-Britam Road. That's about 22.5 kilometers with 2 bridges. I'll also come back to Ikoro-Britam Ekefe. No, that's the one we're working on now by AYF. 2 other bridges there. So we'll just do 2 more so that we can combine all. But at the end of it all, we would have done 60.39 kilometers of road in Oruk Anam alone. That matches our own promise. We commission it in the name of God the Father, amen, and of the Son, amen, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
The commissioning of the project is regarded by residents as the state government's fulfillment of campaign promises, which will in turn boost the socio-economic activity in the area.
And that's all from our Abuja studios. But Jeffrey Uzono is standing by with business activities from the day.
Thanks, Mark, and welcome to Business News. The World Trade Organization has warned its members country against adopting new trade restriction measures as countries are still struggling with COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and food security crisis. The WTO's Director General, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who stated this in the organization's trade monitoring report for December, says the plan by its members to implement the restriction at an increased pace is dangerous, particularly on the export side, as it would further worsen global economic outlook, particularly on food, feed, and fertilizers. The WTO is the world's largest international economic organization with 164 member states, representing over 98% of global trade and gross domestic product. And back here, Nigerians may need to brace up for another supplementary budget in 2023. This is in spite of the 1.2 trillion addition to the appropriation bill which the lawmakers passed just on Wednesday. These are the views of the Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Riwani, who was guest on our Business Morning program earlier today.
Whether we like it or not, there will be a supplementary budget by the next government. But will this suffice? And what is 21.7 trillion going to do to this economy if you allow that to run all the way to the end of no, it will not suffice. We have to be more ambitious and have to be more aggressive in the policy-making environment to make this economy have its impact and actually lift the people, not only economically, but to lift their hope that the future will be better than the present. But the way it's going to be funded is that both at the federal and state levels, there's going to be funding challenges. So we're going to go to the capital markets, we're going to go to individual savings. And don't forget, the more people save, the less they have to spend on consumption. The less they spend on consumption, the economy is maybe likely to contract. So we have challenges. The reality is that whether we like it or not, we'll have to go back to our creditors, both domestically and internationally.
Well, another remarkable gain was recorded at the local stock market a day after investors resumed for the final 3 trading sessions in 2022. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome, and we are back and above the 50K level. The last time the all-share index hit this level was early this year. The index rose today by a wider margin, driving the market cap 201 billion naira higher. MTN Nigeria drove a huge chunk of this positive close, and guess what? Gergu did it again. This time, his share price rose by 12 naira 70 kobo, and that's a 10% increase. Nestle is not far behind, also with a 10% rise. Mark Nichols flipped the page today and settled on the top gainers list away from yesterday's negative close. Now, Vitafoam is on the losing team today. It's not a surprise sell-off as the company just declared a 2.2% drop in net profit. The oil and gas, however, and consumer goods sectors closed up with 3-digit gains. O&O and Nestle definitely had a lot to do with that, and that's why we see that jump in value over 7.32 billion naira traded today. Now, so far so good. The NGX has been a high performer this week, albeit shortened by the Christmas holiday. And we may be heading for its 8th straight week of gains. That's the stock market report. And Will Ibang is back to you.
And that's it on Business News. I'm Jeffrey Ozong. Is back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has been discussing his plans for the country with some youths in Lagos. He says that if elected as president, he will put together a government of national unity in which young people will play a significant role.
Take back our country for good.
The Nigeria we want. That's the focal point of this dialogue between the youth and the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi.
Over the years, we've had leaders tell us, promise us what they want to do. Now, we are changing the narrative. We are the one that wants to ask them, and we are the one that want to tell them, what we need them to do.
Thank you so much.
Young persons from different sectors of the economy, from education to technology, media, law, and agriculture, are selected to be among the panel to take on the candidate about his plans for the country, especially the youth, if elected next year. The representatives ask questions based on his party's 7-point manifesto and how it affects them. But just before Mr. Obi responds, he emphasizes the seriousness of the dialogue.
What we are here to do, and what I want us to do, is far more serious than issue of taking picture, being excited about me or anything, because we're near collapse, and nobody wants to be a refugee.
And then the questions.
What is the stand of your government when you come in as president concerning blockchain technology?
I wonder what your plan will be to nominate those that will drive the vision that you have for education.
What will drive the agri policy in your government? Is it food? Is it income? Or is it job creation?
And Mr. Obi goes ahead to give his answers.
No one person today, not even Peter Obi, can solve problem in Nigeria today. Waste everybody's time. Nigeria needs today. And don't think it's going to be a party affair. If I have opportunity of serving this country, we're going to have government of national unity. And we're going to bring people who are competent no matter where they are in the surface of the earth, as long as they're Nigerian. We're going to have youth and women driving this process. And whatever they want that will make it work, I will stand with them.
The dialogue emphasizes the need for youth to not only participate in politics and make leaders accountable, but also to contribute their concerns and influence policies that affect them.
Cities across Ukraine have been pummeled by dozens of Russian missiles today, one of the largest bombardments since the war there began. The air raid lasted close to 5 hours. Simon PC has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Cities across Ukraine have been targeted by a wave of Russian missile strikes in one of the largest bombardments since the war began. At least 3 people, including a 14-year-old girl, were taken to hospital after explosions hit the capital Kyiv. Blasts were also heard in the cities of Kharkiv, Odessa, Lviv and Zhytomyr. Ukraine's military said 69 missiles were launched, with air defences intercepting 54 of them. Earlier, presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak said more than 120 missiles had been launched at civilian infrastructure. The air raid lasted for close to 5 hours, and the regional leader of the southern province of Odessa spoke of a massive missile attack on Ukraine. Police and local media say at least 10 people have been killed in a fire that swept through a Cambodian hotel casino on the border with Thailand. Hundreds of people were in the Grand Diamond City building in the border town of Phoi Phet when the fire broke out. Video circulating on social media showed people apparently jumping or falling from upper floors. Local reports said the number of deaths was likely to rise. Rescue teams struggled to reach people inside the building because of dense smoke. A large fire on a major South Korean expressway spread quickly, killing at least 5 people and injuring more than 3 dozen in heavy traffic before it was extinguished. Video showed a soundproof awning engulfed in flames soon after the fire broke out on the second expressway near Seoul. Media said the fire appeared to have begun after a bus and a truck collided, but a fire official at the scene said its cause was still being investigated, although the fire had been put out. The heavy traffic made it difficult for vehicles to escape the affected area as the fire spread. Violent protests have broken out in Bolivia following the arrest of a powerful opposition politician. The protests, which led to the resignation of left-wing former President Evo Morales, were spearheaded by Luis Fernando Camacho, the right-wing governor of Santa Cruz province.
Allá está el helicóptero. Se está llevando Luis Fernando Camacho. Abusivo. El helicóptero.
He was detained earlier by local police, here seen being taken to a local airport to be flown to La Paz in an operation that his supporters said resembled a kidnapping. Dozens of vehicles have crashed in a major car pileup on a bridge in the central Chinese city of Jianzhou in Henan province. One person was killed in the incident. Rescuers said more than 200 vehicles had slammed into each other, attributing the cause of the crash to extremely foggy conditions. Excited residents in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, formed long lines in the early hours, patiently waiting for their turn to catch a train ride on the city's first metro rail system. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina opened Line 6, the first metro line of the mass rapid transit system, which took approximately 6 years to complete. Partially funded by Japan, the line is expected to transport some 60,000 passengers each hour in the densely populated city. And James Cameron's long-awaited Avatar sequel has become the fastest 2022 film to smash $1 billion at global sales at the box office just 14 days after its release in mid-December.
By Why do you come to us?
I just want to keep my family safe.
Avatar: The Way of Water has beaten both Top Gun: Maverick, that took 31 days in May to clear the box office milestone, and Jurassic World Dominion, released in June, which took over 4 months. In 2021, Spider-Man: No Way Home took just 12 days.
If you want to live here, you have to ride.
Only 6 movies in history have cleared the $1 billion mark in their first 2 weeks of release. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Brazil football legend Pelé, one of the greatest players of all time, has died at the age of 82. Now, the former striker, who is the only player in history to win 3 FIFA World Cups, passed away at the Albert Einstein Hospital in Sao Paulo following a battle with cancer earlier today. More than 2 years since the passing of Diego Maradona, the football world mourns the death of another legend, Pelé. Known as Edson Arantes do Nascimento, Pelé began playing for Santos at the age of 15 and the Brazilian national team at 16. During his international career, Pelé won 3 FIFA World Cups in 1958, 1962 and 1970, becoming the only player to achieve such feat. Pelé is the all-time leading goal scorer for Brazil with 77 goals in 92 games. At club level, he is Santos' all-time top goal scorer with 643 goals in 659 games. In 1999, he was named Athlete of the Century by the International Olympic Committee and was included in the Time list of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. In the year 2000, Pelé was voted World Player of the Century by the International Federation of Football History and Statistics and was one of the 2 joint winners of the FIFA Player of the Century. Since retiring in 1977, Pelé has been a worldwide ambassador for football. As the curtain draws down on the life of Pelé, the legacies and memories of the football legend lives in the hearts of millions of fans around the world. And indeed, tributes are pouring in for the late Pelé, who died earlier today after a long battle with cancer. Neymar, the Brazilian international, says his iconic compatriot had transformed football into an art. The International Olympic Committee, IOC, says the world has lost a great sporting icon, while the World Football Governing Body, FIFA, says Pelé was simply immortal. Pelé was hailed by Portuguese star Cristiano Ronaldo as a source of inspiration for so many millions. France star Kylian Mbappe says that Pelé's legacy will never be forgotten. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has heaped praise on a new signing Cody Gakpo's potential, adding that the Premier League club had got their timing just right to secure the signature of the highly sought-after Dutch forward. Gakpo, who scored 3 goals for the Netherlands at the World Cup, joined the Merseysiders from PSV Eindhoven for a reported initial fee of £37 million. And that's Sports News. I'm Ayotunde Balogun.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu today met with the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, over the killing of Bolanle Rahim and said that there will be no cover-up in the matter. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Be safe out there.